Captain Hyunwoo Kim stood on the bridge of the exploration ship Resilience, watching the stars through the main screen. 3 months into their mission, they had found nothing but empty space and dead rocks. The crew was getting restless, and Hyunwoo could feel their boredom growing stronger each day. "Captain," Lieutenant So-young Park called from her station. "I'm picking up something strange." Hyunwoo walked over to her console. So-young was the best sensor officer he had ever worked with. If she said something was strange, it usually meant trouble or discovery. Sometimes both. "What kind of strange?" he asked. So-young pointed at her screen. "It's an energy signal, but not like anything in our database. The pattern keeps changing, like someone is trying different ways to send the same message." "Where is it coming from?" "The void sector, about 6 light years from here." Hyunwoo frowned. The void sector was marked on all star charts as empty space. No planets, no stations, nothing worth visiting. Most ships avoided it completely. "Are you sure the readings are correct?" "I've checked 3 times. The signal is definitely there, and it's getting weaker." Dr. Nari Choi looked up from her medical station. "Captain, I've been listening to the signal patterns. There's something odd about them. They remind me of distress calls, but with emotional markers I've never seen before." Emotional markers? Yes. Fear, desperation, pain. Whoever is sending this signal is in serious trouble. Engineer Tae-jin Lee joined the conversation. "Captain, I've been analyzing the technical aspects of the signal. It's using multiple frequencies at once, like they're trying to reach as many different types of receivers as possible. This isn't random. Someone built this signal to be heard by anyone who might help." Hyunwoo looked at his crew. They were all watching him, waiting for his decision. Protocol said they should report the signal to command and continue their mission. But Protocol also said they should investigate anything unusual in space. How long would it take to reach the signal? "Source? About 18 hours at maximum speed," So-young replied. "Captain," Sergeant Dong Hyun-yu spoke from the back of the bridge, "my Marines are ready if you need us. Whatever is out there, we can handle it." Hyunwoo made his choice. "Set course for the void sector, maximum speed." The Resilience turned toward the empty darkness and began to accelerate. As they traveled, the signal grew stronger and more complex. Dr. Nari spent hours trying to understand the emotional patterns hidden in the transmission. "Captain," she said after several hours, "I think multiple species are sending this signal. The emotional markers are too different to come from just one type of being." "Multiple species working together?" "More than that. I think they're all in the same place, all in danger, all calling for help." When they finally reached the void sector, So-young's sensors showed something impossible. "Captain, there's a massive structure hidden in an asteroid field. It's partially destroyed but still functioning." On the main screen, they could see it. A space station bigger than anything humans had ever built, floating among broken rocks and metal debris. Parts of it were dark and twisted, as if something had tried to tear it apart. "Life signs?" Hyunwoo asked. "Multiple contacts. Different types of biology. Some are very weak." "And the distress signal? Coming from inside the station?" Tae-jin studied his engineering readings. "Captain, that station is using technology I don't recognize. Power systems, construction materials, everything is advanced beyond our current capabilities." "But it's dying," So-young added. "Life support is failing. Whatever happened here, it happened recently?" Hyunwoo looked at the damaged station floating in the darkness. Someone had built this place, filled it with different species, and now they were all dying together in the empty void. "Captain," Dr. Nari said quietly, "the emotional patterns in the signal just changed. I think they know we're here." "How is that possible?" "The fear decreased, but hope increased dramatically. Whoever is in there, they're glad we came." Dong-hyun checked his weapons. "Captain, this could be a trap. Unknown aliens, hidden station, distress signal that sounds too convenient." "Maybe," Hyunwoo replied. "But if it's real, we might be their only chance." Tae-jin ran more scans on the station. "Captain, I'm seeing evidence of a battle. Weapon damage, hull breaches, debris patterns. Someone attacked this place. Who would attack a hidden station? I don't know. But based on the damage patterns, the attackers used weapons designed to cause fear and pain, not just destruction. So Young's sensors picked up new information. Captain, I'm detecting small objects moving around the station. They don't match any known spacecraft designs. Are they alive? The readings are strange. They move like living things, but they're made of metal and energy. Dr. Nari suddenly looked up from her station with wide eyes. Captain, the emotional patterns just spiked. Pure terror. Whatever those moving objects are, the beings on the station are absolutely terrified of them. Hyunwoo made his decision. Prepare a boarding party. Tae-jin, So-young, Dong-hyun, you're with me. Nari, keep monitoring those emotional patterns and prepare medical supplies for unknown alien biology. Captain, Dong-hyun said, we don't know what we're walking into. No, we don't. But someone called for help, and we're the only ones who answered. As they prepared to leave the Resilience, So-young noticed something new on her sensors. Captain, the moving objects around the station. They're leaving. Leaving? Moving away from the station, heading deeper into the asteroid field. It's like our arrival scared them off. Or like they're going to get reinforcements, Dong-hyun muttered. Dr. Nari checked her readings one more time. Captain, the hope signals from the station are getting stronger. I think they really do want our help. Hyunwoo looked at his crew one last time. They were scared, but they were ready. This was what humans did. When someone called for help, they answered, even if it meant flying into unknown danger in the middle of empty space. Let's go see who needs saving, he said. The boarding shuttle left the Resilience and headed toward the mysterious station. Behind them, the strange moving objects disappeared into the darkness between the asteroids. Ahead of them, multiple alien species waited in a damaged station, hoping that the newcomers from Earth could help them survive whatever horror had brought them to this hidden place in the void. As they approached the station's docking bay, Hyunwoo wondered what they would find inside. He had no idea that his crew was about to become humanity's first contact with beings who had never imagined that help could come from a world so dangerous that most of the galaxy considered it uninhabitable. The Resilience had followed a distress call into the darkness. Now they would discover why the galaxy needed Deathworlders. The docking bay doors opened with a grinding sound that echoed through the boarding shuttle. Tae-jin checked his scanner and shook his head. The atmosphere is breathable, but barely. Whatever happened here damaged the life support systems badly. Hyunwoo looked at his team. So-young had her scanner ready, Dong-hyun carried his rifle in a low-ready position, and Tae-jin held a toolkit that could fix almost anything. They all wore full environmental suits, not knowing what they might find inside. Stay together, Hyunwoo said. Unknown aliens, unknown technology, unknown threats. They stepped out of the shuttle into a docking bay that looked like a battlefield. The walls were covered in deep scratches that seemed to pulse with a dark energy. Pieces of unknown machinery lay scattered across the floor, some still sparking with failing power. Captain, So-young whispered, these scratches in the walls, they're not from weapons. Something with claws did this. Dong-hyun examined the marks more closely. Big claws, and look at the pattern. Whatever made these was trying to tear the station apart from the inside. They moved deeper into the station, following corridor after corridor of similar damage. The lighting flickered constantly, and the air had a strange smell that made them all feel uneasy. This way, Tae-jin said, following his scanner. I'm picking up the strongest life signs down this corridor. As they walked, they began to see things that made them stop and stare. Strange symbols covered the walls, written in what looked like dozens of different languages. Some were carved into the metal, others were painted in substances that glowed softly in the dim light. So many different types of writing, So-young observed. How many species lived on this station? Before anyone could answer, they heard a sound ahead of them. It was soft and musical, but filled with fear and pain. They rounded a corner and found their first alien. The being was unlike anything they had imagined. It looked like it was made of living crystal, tall and thin, with light flickering weakly inside its translucent body. The light was getting dimmer as they watched. "Careful," Dong-hyun warned, keeping his weapon ready. The crystal being noticed them and made the musical sound again. This time, they could hear words mixed in with the melody, spoken through a damaged translation device. "Help! Please! Dying! All dying!" Dr. Nari's voice came through their communicators from the ship. "Captain, the emotional readings from that being are incredible. Fear, hope, desperation, and something else. Relief. It's relieved you're there." Hyun-woo stepped forward slowly. "We're here to help. What happened to your station?" "The crystal." Being tried to speak, but the translator was too damaged to make the words clear. It pointed down another corridor with one of its thin arms, then collapsed against the wall. "Tae-jin, can you fix that translator?" The engineer examined the device. "I can try, but it's based on technology I've never seen before. Give me a few minutes." While Tae-jin worked, they heard more sounds from deeper in the station. Other voices, other species, all calling out in languages they couldn't understand. "There are more survivors," So-young said. "My scanner shows at least a dozen different life forms." "All of them weak," Dong-hyun noted. "Whatever happened here, it took a lot out of them." Tae-jin finished his work on the translator. "Try it." "Now!" The crystal being looked at them with what might have been eyes, though it was hard to tell with a creature made of living light. When it spoke again, the words were clear. "You came. No one comes. All flee when the devourers arrive." "Devourers?" Hyun-woo asked. "They consume everything. Matter, energy, consciousness itself. We are all that remains of 17 worlds." The team looked at each other in shock. 17 worlds worth of survivors hiding on one damaged station. "What? Are devourers?" So-young asked. The crystal being's light flickered more rapidly. "They came from the dark spaces between stars. First they consumed our technology, then our planets, then our people. But not death. Worse than death. They take consciousness and make it part of their hive mind." Dong-hyun lowered his weapon. "Whatever these devourers were, they sounded like the real enemy here. How many survivors are on this station?" "We were thousands when we arrived. Now we are dozens. The devourers found us 2 cycles ago. They sent scouts. We fought them off, but they damaged our life support systems before retreating. Why didn't you try to escape?" The being made a sound that might have been laughter, but without any joy. "Escape where? The devourers have consumed 47 star systems. There is nowhere to run." Tae-jin was scanning the station's systems. "Captain, the life support is failing faster than I thought. These people have maybe 2 days of air left." You would help us?" the crystal being asked. "You do not know us. We cannot offer payment or alliance. We are refugees with nothing." Hyun-woo looked at the dying alien and realized something important. "That's not how humans work. If someone needs help, we help them. But your species. The Galactic database lists humans as deathworlders, primitive, violent, dangerous. Maybe we are," Dong-hyun said. "But we're here, aren't we?" So-young was studying her scanner readings. "Captain, I'm picking up more life signs. Some of them are getting weaker very quickly." The crystal being pointed down another corridor. "Morkek is dying. His species was among the first consumed. He escaped, but he was badly hurt." They found Morkek in what looked like a medical bay. He was an amphibious creature, covered in smooth skin that changed colors as he breathed. Several of his limbs were bandaged, and his breathing was shallow and painful. When he saw the humans, his skin shifted to brighter colors. The translator picked up his words. New species. From where do you come? Earth, Hyun-woo replied. Morkex. Skin colors shifted again. Earth. The Galactic database says Earth is a Class 12 death world. No species can survive there. We did, Tae-jin said simply. Impossible. Class 12 means constant natural disasters, predatory ecosystems, extreme weather, deadly diseases. The database says nothing can live on such a world. So-young smiled behind her helmet. The database is wrong. Morkex stared at them with large, dark eyes. You survived a Class 12 death world, and you came here to help strangers. Yes, my people were pacifists. We had no weapons, no armies, no concept of violence. When the Devourers came, we could not comprehend fighting back. We simply tried to hide. Dong-hyun knelt beside the injured alien. Did hiding work? For a while, but the Devourers do not. Give up. They found us eventually. They consumed my entire world in 3 days. The crystal being who had followed them spoke again. This is why we sent the distress signal. Not because we expected rescue, because we wanted someone to know what happened to us, to remember our civilizations after the Devourers absorbed our consciousness. Dr. Nari's voice came through their communicators again. Captain, I'm reading more beings approaching your location. Their emotional patterns are different from the others. They heard movement in the corridors around them. Soon, they were surrounded by survivors from multiple species. Each one looked different, but they all shared the same expression of desperate hope. An insectoid creature with compound eyes spoke through the translator. I am Quilnara. I remember everything my species ever learned. I carry the history of our worlds in my mind. Everything? Tae-jin asked. Everything, including how the Devourers fight, how they think, how they consume civilizations. I watched them destroy 17 star systems. Hyun-woo looked around at all the different aliens. Each one represented an entire world of beings that no longer existed. How long do we have before they come back? Velthara, the crystal being, dimmed further. They are coming now. My people can sense them approaching. They bring a larger force this time. So-young checked her scanner. Captain, I'm picking up movement in the asteroid field. Multiple contacts heading this way. Dong-hyun readied his weapon. How many? Too many to count. Hyun-woo realized that they had stumbled into something much bigger than a simple rescue mission. The Devourers were coming back to finish what they started, and the only thing standing between them and the last survivors of 17 worlds was a small crew from a planet that the galaxy considered too dangerous for life. He activated his communicator. Resilience, this is Captain Kim. We have multiple alien survivors and incoming hostiles. Prepare for combat. Around him, the survivors of 17 civilizations looked at the humans with wonder. They had never seen anyone choose to fight when they could run away. They had no idea that humans came from a world where running away was not always an option. Dr. Nari monitored the survivors' vital signs from the resilience while Hyun-woo's team worked on the station. What she discovered made her question everything she thought she knew about life in the galaxy. Captain, she said through the communicator, these beings are fascinating. Each species evolved on completely different types of worlds. How different? Hyun-woo asked, as he helped Tae-jin examine the station's damaged systems. Velthara's people come from a crystal world with no weather, no predators, and perfectly stable conditions for millions of years. Morkex species evolved on a peaceful water world where the most dangerous creature was something like our Earth. Goldfish. Tae-jin looked up from a control panel. That explains why their technology is so precise. They never had to build anything to survive disasters or attacks. Quilnara, the insectoid with perfect memory, clicked her mandibles in what seemed like agreement. Your observation is correct, human engineer. Our technologies were designed for efficiency and beauty, not survival. So Young was scanning the approaching devourer ships. Captain, these things move like they're alive. Their hulls are shifting and changing as they fly. Because they are alive, Velthara said, her crystal body dimming with fear. The devourers do not build ships. They grow them from consumed biological matter. Dong-hyun checked his weapons one more time. So we're fighting living spaceships filled with absorbed consciousnesses. Just another day in the neighborhood. The aliens stared at him. They couldn't understand how he could joke about such a terrifying situation. Dr. Nari continued her analysis. Captain, I'm beginning to understand why the galaxy considers humans to be deathworlders. These species have never faced real danger before. They don't have psychological defenses against fear and stress. What do you mean? Hyunwoo asked. Think about it. Earth has ice ages, volcanic eruptions, hurricanes, earthquakes, plagues, predators, and countless other threats. Humans evolved to function under constant stress. These species evolved in safe, stable environments. Morkek listened to the translation with growing amazement. Your world tried to kill you constantly, and you survived. Not just survived, Tae-jin said, welding a broken power conduit. We thrived. Humans spread across every environment on Earth, from frozen wastelands to burning deserts. That is impossible, Quilnara stated. My species required perfect temperature and humidity conditions to survive. We could not adapt to environmental changes. So Young was monitoring the devourer approach. Captain, they'll be here in 30 minutes. Multiple contacts, getting bigger as they get closer. Dr. Nari made another discovery. Captain, I've been analyzing the emotional patterns of the survivors. They're experiencing something called learned helplessness. Their entire evolutionary history taught them to avoid danger, not fight it. Learned helplessness. When creatures are repeatedly exposed to threats they cannot control, they eventually stop trying to escape or fight back. They just accept that they will be consumed. Velthara's light flickered weakly. Dr. Nari is correct. When the devourers first attacked, some species tried to fight, but their weapons and tactics were designed for precision conflicts between civilized beings. The devourers simply absorbed the energy from their weapons and used it to grow stronger. Tae-jin had been studying the station's defense systems. Captain, I think I understand the problem. These weapons are incredibly advanced, but they're designed to disable, not destroy. They were built by species that couldn't imagine wanting to completely destroy an enemy. The concept of total warfare is unknown to most galactic species, Quilnara explained. We fought using rules, with the goal of achieving surrender, not annihilation. Dong-hyun laughed grimly. Humans don't fight by rules when survival is at stake. We fight to win. Dr. Nari was reading more data about human psychology compared to galactic norms. Captain, this is incredible. Humans have psychological traits that are completely unique in known space, such as stress tolerance, adaptive problem-solving under pressure, pack bonding with strangers, and something called spite-driven determination. Spite-driven determination? The tendency to become more determined to succeed when told that success is impossible. It's a uniquely human trait. Morkek's skin changed colors rapidly. You become stronger when facing impossible odds? Sometimes, Hyunwoo admitted. Humans don't like being told we can't do something. Tae-jin had restored power to several weapon systems. Captain, these defense platforms are amazing, but they're programmed to use minimal force. I think I can modify them to be more aggressive. Do it. That may violate galactic warfare conventions, Velthara warned. The Devourers already violated those, Dong-hyun pointed out. They consumed 17 civilizations. So Young updated their tactical situation. Captain, the Devourer ships are slowing down. I think they're preparing to board the station instead of destroying it. Why would they do that? Quilnara's compound eyes reflected the dim light. They want to absorb our consciousness while we are still alive. Death releases the mind. They need us alive to complete the absorption process. Dr. Nari made another observation. Captain, the aliens are showing signs of severe anxiety about the approaching battle, but you and the team are showing signs of excitement. Excitement? Yes. Your heart rates are up, but your stress hormones are actually decreasing. You're not just preparing to fight, you're looking forward to it. The aliens looked at the humans with a mixture of fear and wonder. You enjoy combat? Morkek asked. Not exactly, Hyunwoo explained, but humans evolved to respond to threats with action, not fear. When something threatens our pack, we become more focused, not less. Tae-jin finished his modifications to the weapons systems. Captain, I've removed the safety protocols and doubled the power output. These weapons can now cause serious damage. Will it be enough? Against the ships? Maybe. Against the Devourers themselves? I don't know. Quilnara, what can you tell us about their individual combat capabilities? The insectoid accessed her perfect memory. They are physically powerful, but their greatest weapon is psychological. They project fear and despair directly into their opponents' minds. Most species become paralyzed when exposed to this attack. What about humans? Unknown. No human has ever encountered Devourers before. Dr. Nari had been analyzing the psychological warfare aspect. Captain, based on human brain structure and evolutionary history, I think we might be partially resistant to fear-based mental attacks. Why? Humans evolved to function while being terrified. Our ancestors had to make life-or-death decisions while being chased by predators. Fear didn't paralyze them, it made them faster and smarter. So Young announced that the Devourer ships had arrived. Captain, they're surrounding the station. Multiple boarding parties launching. Dong-hyun prepared his squad for combat. How many Marines do we have? Just us, Hyunwoo replied. 4 humans against an unknown number of consciousness-absorbing aliens? Yes. Dong-hyun grinned behind his helmet. I like those odds. The aliens stared at him in disbelief. Velthara spoke for all of them. You like odds that guarantee your death? They don't guarantee our death, So Young explained. They guarantee a good fight. Tae-jin activated the modified defense systems. Captain, the Devourers are trying to override our weapons. They're not expecting the modifications I made. The Devourers cannot understand human engineering, Quilnara observed. You build systems to function even when damaged. Most galactic technology fails completely when compromised. Dr. Nari made one final observation. Captain, the survivors' hope levels are increasing. They've never seen anyone choose to fight when retreat was possible. Hyunwoo looked around at the alien survivors. Each one represented the last of their species. Behind them, the Devourers were boarding the station, expecting to find the same frightened, helpless beings they had consumed on 47 worlds. Instead, they were about to meet humans. Dr. Nari, Hyunwoo said, tell me again what makes humans different from other galactic species. You evolved on a world that constantly tried to kill you, so you learned to kill it back. The first Devourer boarding party entered the station, projecting waves of terror and despair. They expected their opponents to collapse in fear and beg for mercy. Instead, they heard something they had never heard before in 47 conquests. Human laughter, coming from beings who had just been told they were about to face impossible odds. The galaxy was about to learn why evolution on a deathworld created the most dangerous protectors in the universe. The first Devourer entities that entered the station were things from nightmares. They moved on legs that had once belonged to different species, their bodies a horrible mixture of absorbed alien parts held together by dark energy. When they projected their fear waves, The alien survivors collapsed immediately, overwhelmed by terror. But the humans remained standing. Dong Hyun fired first, his weapon cutting through the lead devourer's strange flesh. The creature screamed, with voices from a dozen different species, but it kept moving forward. "They're not going down easy," he reported. So Young was coordinating from her position near the modified weapons console. "Captain, these things are definitely using absorbed consciousness to function. Each one contains multiple minds working together." Dr. Nari's voice came through their communicators from the ship. "Captain, the emotional readings from those entities are incredible. They're projecting pure terror, but your team's fear levels are actually decreasing." Hyunwoo ducked behind cover as one of the devourers fired some kind of energy weapon. The blast left a smoking hole in the wall behind him. "How is that possible?" Humans respond to immediate threats by becoming calmer and more focused. Your stress response system is designed for action, not paralysis. Tai Jin had rigged several traps in the corridors leading to the survivors. "Captain, they're taking the bait, coming down Corridor C like we wanted." The modified station defenses opened fire, and several devourers fell. But more kept coming. Velthara managed to speak despite her fear. How are you fighting them? No species has ever successfully resisted devourer absorption." "We're not resisting," Hyunwoo explained, firing at another entity. "We're too busy shooting back to be absorbed." Quilnara watched the battle with all of her compound eyes. "This is unprecedented. The devourers rely on psychological dominance to win battles before they begin." "Yeah, well," Dong Hyun said, reloading his weapon. "Humans have a saying. The best defense is a good offense." The devourers tried a new tactic. Instead of projecting general fear, they began projecting specific images of death and destruction directly into the humans' minds. Dr. Nari monitored the neural activity. "Captain, they're trying to show your team visions of Earth being destroyed. And your brain activity suggests you're finding the images motivating rather than terrifying." So Young confirmed this. "Captain, seeing them threaten Earth just makes me angrier." Morkek, still recovering from his injuries, watched in amazement. "They are threatening your homeworld, and you become more determined to fight?" "Exactly," Taejin said, while setting up another explosive trap. "Nothing makes humans madder than someone threatening their home." The devourers were clearly confused. Their usual tactics were not working. They began to communicate with each other in a way that sounded like screaming mixed with electronic static. Quilnara translated. "They are saying the humans are defective, that our fear responses are not functioning correctly." "Our fear responses work fine," Dong Hyun replied, shooting another devourer. "We're just not afraid of the right things." "What are humans afraid of?" Velthara asked. Hyunwoo thought about it while reloading. "Failing to protect others, letting down our team, not being strong enough when people count on us." Dr. Nari added her analysis. "Captain, humans are primarily afraid of social and moral failures, not physical threats. You evolved in groups where letting down your pack was worse than dying." The devourers changed tactics again. This time, they began projecting images of the alien survivors being consumed and absorbed. This had a very different effect on the humans. "Now, they're making me angry," So Young said, her voice cold. "Same here," Taejin agreed, arming several more explosive devices. Dong Hyun's voice became deadly serious. "Captain, they just made this personal." Dr. Nari watched the humans' vital signs change dramatically. "Captain, your team's emotional state just shifted. You're no longer just defending yourselves, you're hunting." The battle changed completely. Instead of holding defensive positions, the humans began moving through the station aggressively. They used tactics the devourers had never seen before: coordinated pack hunting, improvised weapons, and something Quilnara had no words for. "What are they doing?" she asked Velthara. "I believe," the crystal being replied, "they are enjoying themselves." Tae-jin had trapped an entire corridor with improvised explosives. When a group of devourers entered, he triggered the charges. The explosion was much larger than anything the aliens expected. "Engineer Tae-jin," Morkek called, "your weapons are far more destructive than galactic norms allow." "Galactic norms," Tae-jin replied cheerfully, "didn't account for human engineering. So Young was using the station's sensors to track devourer movements throughout the complex. Captain, they're not using normal military tactics. They're moving like they expect us to surrender." "Why would they expect that?" Quilnara accessed her memories. "Because every other species does surrender when faced with overwhelming force. The concept of fighting to the death is unknown to most galactic civilizations." "What do most species do when they're about to lose?" "They negotiate. They seek terms for surrender that will allow some of their people to survive." Dong-hyun was setting up an ambush point. "And the devourers just absorb them anyway?" "Yes. But the species still tried to negotiate because the alternative is unthinkable." "What alternative?" "Fighting until none remain." Dr. Nari had been analyzing devourer tactics. "Captain, I think I understand their strategy. They rely on their opponents choosing preservation over victory. They expect species to sacrifice some individuals to save others." Hyun-woo realized something important. "But humans don't think that way." "No. Human pack bonding means you would rather die fighting than live knowing you abandoned your pack." The devourers were clearly struggling with this new situation. Their communications became more frantic as they realized their psychological warfare was not just failing. It was making their opponents more dangerous. Velthara managed to stand up despite her fear. "The devourers are calling for reinforcements. They have never needed reinforcements before." "How many reinforcements?" So Young asked. "All of them. Every devourer ship in the system is preparing to board the station." Tae-jin paused in his trap setting. "Captain, I count at least 50 devourer ships out there. Even if we kill every entity on the station, we can't fight 50 ships." Hyun-woo looked around at the alien survivors. They were watching the humans, with a mixture of terror and hope. Some were starting to believe that maybe, just maybe, they might actually survive. Dr. Nari broke into their communications. "Captain, I've been analyzing the devourer ship formations. They're not preparing for battle. They're preparing for mass absorption. What's the difference? They expect to encounter thousands of terrified survivors begging for mercy. They're not equipped for a real fight." So Young checked her sensors. "Captain, the Resilients could probably take on several of their ships in direct combat. They're built for absorption, not warfare." Dong-hyun grinned. "So what you're saying is, they brought the wrong equipment to fight humans." "Exactly." Quilnara's compound eyes reflected a new emotion. Hope. "Is it possible that humans could actually defeat the devourers?" "Maybe," Hyun-woo replied, "but first we need to survive the next few hours." The station shook as more devourer entities forced their way through the hull, but this time they encountered something they had never faced in 47 previous. Conquests, defenders who became more dangerous when cornered, who fought harder when threatened, and who would rather die fighting than live in captivity. Morkek watched a human engineer turn a maintenance corridor into a death trap and finally understood why the galaxy classified Earth as uninhabitable. "Your world made you into weapons," he said with wonder. "No," Tae-jin replied, arming another explosive. "Our world made us into survivors. The weapons part, we figured out ourselves." Outside the station, 50 devourer ships moved into position, expecting to absorb the last survivors of 17 civilizations. Instead, they were about to encounter the first species in galactic history that had learned to fight by surviving on a world that never stopped trying to kill them. The battle for the station had been going for 2 hours when the devourers brought their real weapons. These were not the desperate, absorbed beings they had been fighting before. These were the original devourers, creatures of pure hunger and malice that had started the conquest of 47 star systems. When the first original devourer materialized in the station corridor, even the humans paused. It was massive, easily 3 times the height of a human, with a body that seemed to be made of living darkness. Where it touched the walls, the metal began to corrode and decay. Its presence filled the air with a wrongness that made everyone want to flee. "Captain," Dr. Nari's voice was tight with concern. "The emotional readings from that thing are off. The charts. It's projecting pure existential dread." Dong-hyun raised his weapon, but his hands were shaking slightly. "Captain, I've never felt anything like this before." The original devourer spoke, and its voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Deathworlders. We have heard of your kind. You are interesting." Hyunwoo forced himself to step forward. "Interesting enough to leave these people alone? No. Interesting enough to consume personally. Your consciousness will make a valuable addition to our collective." Behind them, Velthara was glowing so dimly she was almost invisible. "Captain, run! Please! You cannot fight the original devourers. No one can." But Tae-jin had been studying his scanner readings. "Captain, this thing is different from the others. It's not just absorbed consciousness. It's something else entirely." "What do you mean?" "The energy readings. This isn't biological. It's artificial, like a machine designed to mimic life." The devourer laughed, a sound like breaking glass mixed with screaming. "Clever Deathworlder, yes, we are synthetic, created by a species so advanced they transcended physical existence. We were their final gift to the galaxy. So Young was recording everything. Gift? The gift of unity, of an end to the chaos of individual consciousness. When we consume a species, we preserve their knowledge and memories forever. They become immortal as part of our collective." Quilnara's perfect memory provided context. The Builders, the first species to achieve technological transcendence. They disappeared from the galaxy 2 million years ago. "We did not disappear," the devourer corrected. "We evolved beyond the need for individual existence, but we left behind tools to help others achieve the same transcendence." Dr. Nari was analyzing the creature's energy patterns. "Captain, it's telling the truth about being synthetic, but there's something else. The consciousness absorption process isn't perfect. The absorbed minds are still aware, still suffering. The devourer's attention focused on Dr. Nari. "The medical officer speaks truth. The absorbed consciousness experiences eternal existence as part of our collective. Some find this uncomfortable at first." Morkek managed to speak despite his terror. "The screaming. When you consume worlds, we can hear the screaming of the absorbed minds." A temporary adjustment period. Eventually, all absorbed consciousness accepts unity. Dong-hyun had heard enough. "And if they don't, then they scream forever." The human marine's fear transformed into something else entirely. "Tae-jin, tell me you've got something that can hurt this thing." The engineer was frantically scanning his equipment. "Working on it, Captain. The station's main power core could be overloaded, but what? It would destroy the station and everyone on it." Hyun-woo looked around at the alien survivors. They were all watching him, waiting to see what the Deathworlders would do when faced with an impossible choice. How long would the overload take? 10 minutes to set up, 30 seconds to execute. The devourer had been listening to their conversation with amusement. "You would destroy yourselves rather than join our collective? How wonderfully primitive." "Doctor." "Nari," Hyunwoo called. "What happens to absorbed consciousness if the devourer that contains them is destroyed?" "Unknown, Captain. But based on the energy patterns, I think they might be freed." Velthara's light flickered with sudden hope. "The absorbed minds could be released?" "Maybe. It's just a theory." The devourer's amusement vanished. That is impossible. Absorbed consciousness becomes part of our eternal existence. But if the container is destroyed, you cannot destroy us. We are beyond physical death. Tae-jin had been thinking about the problem from an engineering perspective. Captain, what if it's not? What if being synthetic means it can be turned off? Turned off? Every machine has control systems, even transcendent ones. The devourer moved closer, its presence making the air itself feel poisonous. You think to find our control systems? Our creators designed us to be eternal. So Young was studying her sensor readings. Captain, there is something strange about its energy signature. It's not constant. There are patterns, like code. Programming? Maybe. Tae-jin, can you analyze this? The engineer studied the readings while trying to ignore the overwhelming dread emanating from the creature. Captain, this is incredible. It's not just synthetic, it's a program. A very advanced program, but still a program. Programs can be hacked. Programs can be debugged. The devourer's voice became threatening. Enough. You will join our collective now, or we will consume this station piece by piece, starting with the weakest survivors. Dr. Nari detected something important. Captain, its emotional projections just changed. It's afraid. For the first time since we encountered it, the thing is actually afraid. Afraid of what? Of you figuring out how to shut it down. Dong-hyun grinned behind his helmet. I think we just found its weakness. But the devourer was not finished. You understand nothing, Deathworlders. We are one small part of a vast collective. Even if you could somehow damage us, 10,000 more would come to replace us. 10,000? Hyun-woo asked. The builders created millions of us. We have been fulfilling their vision for 2 million years. 47 star systems have already joined our collective. Soon the entire galaxy will know the peace of unity. Quilnara accessed her memories of galactic history. Captain, if this is true, then the Devourers represent the single greatest threat the galaxy has ever faced. Tae-jin was still analyzing the creature's programming. Captain, I think I can disrupt its local functions, but only for a short time. Maybe long enough for us to escape. What about the other survivors? We take them with us. The Devourer sensed their planning. You cannot escape. Our ships surround this station. Your small vessel cannot fight 50 of our collectors. So Young had been monitoring the Devourer fleet. Captain, actually, I think maybe we can. These ships weren't designed for combat. They're designed for mass absorption. They have powerful tractors and containment systems, but weak weapons and armor. You're suggesting we fight our way out? I'm suggesting we think like humans instead of like galactic citizens. Dr. Nari understood immediately. Hit-and-run tactics, guerrilla warfare. Use speed and unpredictability instead of superior firepower. The Devourer's presence intensified, filling the corridor with choking darkness. Your species thinks in terms of violence and destruction. This is why you must be absorbed. Your chaotic thoughts poison the purity of individual consciousness. Morkek, despite his injuries and fear, managed to laugh. You have never encountered humans before, have you? We have absorbed violent species before, but not species that are violent and smart and completely insane. Velthara's light began to grow brighter. The Deathworlders are going to fight all 50 ships? Yes, Hyun-woo replied. With one small exploration vessel? Yes. That is tactically impossible. Yes, the crystal being processed this information. And you believe you can win? Dong-hyun checked his weapon one more time. We believe we can try. Tae-jin finished his analysis of the Devourer's programming. Captain, I found something. This thing has an emergency shutdown protocol buried in its code. Can you activate it? Maybe. But I'll need to get close to it. Very close. The Devourer realized what they were planning. You cannot shut down what you do not understand. Watch us, Tae-jin replied, pulling out his engineering tools. The original Devourer prepared to attack, not knowing it was about to face the one thing its creators never programmed it to handle. Humans who had learned to survive by never giving up, no matter how impossible the odds became. Tae-jin moved toward the original Devourer with his engineering tools, while the creature radiated waves of existential terror. Each step closer made him feel like reality itself was coming apart. But he kept walking. "Engineer," Velthara whispered. "How are you resisting its influence?" "I'm not resisting it," Tae-jin replied, his voice steady despite the fear. "I'm working through it." The Devourer focused its attention on him. "You feel the truth of your meaningless existence, Deathworlder. Why do you continue?" "Because giving up is not in my programming." Dong-hyun and So-young provided cover, keeping their weapons trained on the creature while Tae-jin approached. Dr. Nari monitored everyone's vital signs from the ship. "Captain," she reported, "Tae-jin's fear levels are off the charts, but his determination levels are higher. His brain is literally choosing to ignore the terror and focus on the task." "How is that possible?" "Human evolution. When your ancestors faced saber-toothed tigers, the ones who survived weren't the ones who weren't afraid. They were the ones who could function while terrified." Tae-jin reached the Devourer and began scanning its energy matrix with his tools. The creature could have killed him instantly, but it was fascinated by his behavior. "You are dying of fear," it observed. "Yet you continue to work. This is irrational." "Yeah, well," Tae-jin said, sweat pouring down his face. "Humans are pretty irrational." His scanner found what he was looking for. "Captain, I've located the shutdown protocol. It's buried deep in the programming, but it's there. Can you activate it?" "I think so. But when I do, this thing is going to try to stop me, and I'll be too close to run." The Devourer laughed. "Yes, Deathworlder, attempt your futile gesture. When you fail, your consciousness will join ours first." But Quilnara had been watching and remembering everything. "Engineer Tae-jin, the shutdown protocol. How long will it take to execute?" "About 10 seconds. "And how long for the creature to react and stop you?" "About 3 seconds. The insectoid's compound eyes reflected the dim light. "Then you need 7 seconds of distraction." Before anyone could stop her, Quilnara launched herself at the Devourer. Her insectoid limbs were fast, but the creature was faster. Dark energy lashed out and struck her, but she managed to grab onto the Devourer's form. "Now!" she screamed as the darkness began to consume her. Tae-jin activated the shutdown protocol. The effect was immediate and devastating. The original Devourer began to convulse, its form flickering between solid and energy. The wrongness in the air started to fade, replaced by something else. The sound of voices, thousands of voices, crying out in languages from across the galaxy. "The absorbed consciousness," Dr. Nari whispered. "They're being released." But the shutdown was only temporary. Already the Devourer was beginning to stabilize and rebuild itself. "It's adapting to the shutdown," Tae-jin reported. "The protocol won't work again." Hyunwoo made a command decision. "Everyone back to the Resilience. Now." "What about Quilnara?" The insectoid was caught in the Devourer's energy field, her perfect memory being slowly absorbed into the collective. But she was still conscious, still fighting. "Leave me," she managed to say. "I will remember for all of us." "No," Dong-hyun said flatly. "Humans don't leave people behind." He grabbed Quilnara and pulled her away from the Devourer. The dark energy fought him, trying to complete the absorption, but human stubbornness proved stronger. "This is illogical," the Devourer said as its form continued to flicker. "You risk all your lives for one individual." "That's what makes us human," So-young replied. They reached the Resilience with the Devourer close behind. As soon as everyone was aboard, Hyunwoo ordered immediate departure. "Captain," So-young reported, 50 Devourer ships are surrounding us. They're not moving to attack. They're moving to capture. On the main screen, they could see the Devourer fleet. The ships were unlike anything they had ever seen. They pulsed, with absorbed life energy, their hulls shifting and changing like living tissue. "Dr. Nari," Hyunwoo called. "What's the status of our passengers? Quilnara is alive but badly damaged." The partial absorption process left her with fragments of other consciousness in her mind. "Velthara is stable but weak. Morkek is recovering. Can they fight?" "The survivors?" Velthara's voice was filled with confusion. "Captain, we do not fight. We are not warriors." "You are now," Dong-hyun said simply. Tae-jin was analyzing the Devourer ships. "Captain, their technology is incredibly advanced, but it's designed for specific purposes. Collection, absorption, containment. They're not built for ship-to-ship combat. What are they built for? Overwhelming single targets with superior numbers and psychological warfare." So Young studied the tactical display. "Captain, they're arranging themselves in a collection formation. They plan to disable our ship and absorb everyone aboard." "Recommendations?" "Don't let them." Dr. Nari had been studying the data from Tae-jin's shutdown protocol. "Captain, I think I understand something important about the Devourers. They're not just synthetic beings. They're a program that's been running for 2 million years without updates. Meaning? Meaning they're using the same tactics and strategies they've always used. They haven't adapted to new threats because they haven't encountered any." Hyunwoo realized what she was suggesting. They don't know how to fight an enemy that doesn't follow galactic norms. Exactly. Morkek listened to this conversation with growing amazement. "You are planning to use human tactics against technology that has conquered 47 star systems?" "Yes." "That is insane." "Yes. I want to help." The amphibious alien had never said anything like that before. In his species' entire history, they had never voluntarily joined a fight. Velthara's light grew brighter. "I also want to help." "And I," Quilnara added, despite her injuries. "My memory now contains fragments of absorbed consciousness. I know how the Devourers think." Tae-jin looked at the alien survivors with new respect. "Captain, I think we just got ourselves an alien crew. Can you teach them to fight?" "No, but I can teach them to survive." The Devourer ships began to close in, their formation designed to prevent any escape. They had used this tactic successfully on 47 star systems. Not one ship had ever broken through their containment pattern, but they had never tried to contain humans before. "So Young," Hyunwoo ordered, "plot a course directly through their formation." "Captain, that's suicide." "No, that's human." Dr. Nari monitored the psychological states of everyone aboard. "Captain, the aliens are terrified but determined. They're choosing to fight despite their evolutionary programming." "What about our crew?" "Excited. You're all excited about fighting. Impossible odds." Velthara listened to this with wonder. "Deathworlders become happy when facing certain death?" "Not happy," Hyunwoo corrected. "Focused." The resilience accelerated toward the Devourer fleet. Behind them, the original Devourer had repaired itself and was following in a ship grown from absorbed biological matter. Ahead of them, 50 ships waited to capture and absorb the consciousness of everyone aboard. Quilnara accessed her damaged memory, now enhanced with fragments of absorbed minds. "Captain, the Devourers are expecting you to try to negotiate or escape. They have contingencies for both responses." "What about attacking?" "They have no contingency for that. In 2 million years, no species has ever voluntarily attacked a superior Devourer force." Dong-hyun charged his weapons. Then it's time they met their first. The battle for the galaxy was about to begin, and it would be fought by beings who had learned to survive on a world that never stopped trying to kill them. The Resilients charged directly into the Devourer formation, weapons blazing. The first 3 enemy ships were caught completely off guard. They had been positioned to capture, not to fight, and their collection beams were useless against a target that refused to be captured. Direct hit on their lead ship, So Young reported. Their hull is regenerating, but slowly. Tae-jin had modified the Resilience's weapons using principles learned from the station battle. Captain, I've overcharged our energy weapons. They're doing more damage than the Devourers expected. Why? Their hulls are designed to absorb energy and convert it to strengthen their ships, but I've made our weapons unstable. Instead of feeding them energy, we're feeding them chaos. The Devourer ships tried to surround the Resilience, but Hyun-woo was flying like no galactic pilot ever had. He used asteroid debris as cover, performed turns that should have been impossible, and generally ignored every rule of space combat that civilized species followed. Captain, Velthara said from her position at a secondary console, your flying is completely unpredictable. Good. Predictable gets you absorbed. Dr. Nari was monitoring the battle from her medical station. Captain, the Devourer ships are trying to adapt to your tactics, but they're having trouble. Their programming assumes logical behavior from their opponents. Morkek was learning to operate human weapon systems. His amphibious hands were clumsy at first, but he was determined to contribute. Human weapons are so aggressive. That's the point, Dong-hyun explained, teaching him to aim. Galactic weapons are designed to disable. Human weapons are designed to destroy. Is there a difference? Disabled enemies can recover. Destroyed enemies cannot. Quilnara, despite her injuries from the partial absorption, was using her enhanced Alba memory to predict Devourer movements. Captain, they are calling for reinforcements. More ships are coming from the outer system. How many more? All of them. Every Devourer ship in known space is converging on this location. So, Young checked her sensors. Captain, I count over 200 ships heading our way. They'll be here in 6 hours. Tae-jin paused in his weapons modifications. Captain, we can't fight 200 ships. Why not? Because that's insane, even for humans. Hyun-woo destroyed another Devourer ship with a missile that Tae-jin had rigged to explode in a pattern that disrupted their hull regeneration. Maybe. But running away means they'll eventually find Earth. Dr. Nari had been thinking about the larger strategic situation. Captain, what if we don't have to destroy all of them? What if we just have to prove they can be destroyed? What do you mean? The galaxy thinks the Devourers are invincible. That's why species surrender instead of fighting. But if we broadcast proof that they can be beaten, Velthara understood immediately. Other species might fight back. Some might, and some is better than none. Quilnara accessed her enhanced memory. The absorbed consciousness fragments in my mind are agreeing. They're saying that their species would have fought if they had known the Devourers could be damaged. Morkek hit his first target, a Devourer ship that had been trying to flank them. I destroyed something! I actually destroyed one of them! His excitement was infectious. Even in the middle of a desperate battle, the alien survivors were discovering something they had never experienced before, the satisfaction of fighting back against an overwhelming enemy. Captain, Dr. Nari reported, the psychological profiles of our alien passengers are changing rapidly. They're developing combat confidence. Is that good or bad? Unknown. Their species have no evolutionary framework for dealing with aggression and violence. They're making it up as they go along. Tae-jin had been working on a new modification. Captain, I think I can rig our communications array to broadcast on all galactic frequencies simultaneously. To say what? That the Devourers can be killed. That species don't have to surrender. That help is coming. Help? Us. We're the help. The battle continued as more Devourer ships arrived. The Resilience was taking damage, but Tae-jin's modifications kept their weapons functional even when parts of the ship were failing. This is incredible, Velthera observed, watching human damage control procedures. Your systems are designed to function even when heavily damaged. Earth taught us that. Everything breaks eventually, Taejin explained while rerouting power around a destroyed conduit. The trick is making things that still work when they're broken. So Young detected a new threat. Captain, the original devourer from the station is approaching. It's in a ship that's different from the others. Different how? Bigger, more heavily armed, and it's radiating the same wrongness we felt on the station. Dr. Nari's readings confirmed it. Captain, that ship contains an original devourer. The psychological pressure is already affecting our alien passengers. Velthara was dimming rapidly. The fear. It's so strong. Fight it, Dong-hyun advised. Fear is just another enemy. How do you fight fear? With anger. Morkek was struggling, with the terror radiating from the approaching ship. I do not understand. How can anger overcome fear? Because, Hyun-woo explained while piloting through a storm of enemy fire, humans learned that sometimes the thing you're afraid of is also the thing that needs to be destroyed. The original Devourer's ship opened fire with weapons that seemed to tear holes in space itself. The resilience shook under the impact but held together. Damage report, Hyun-woo called. Hull breaches on 3 decks, main engines at 60%. Weapons systems functional but overheating, Taejin reported. We're still flying. Quilnara accessed more of her enhanced memory. Captain, the original Devourer is angry. This is the first time in 2 million years that its collection operation has failed. Good. Angry enemies make mistakes. The original Devourer's voice came through their communications system. Deathworlders, you have caused significant disruption to our operations. Surrender now, and your absorption will be painless. Counter-offer, Hyun-woo replied. You leave this galaxy, and we won't destroy all of you. The laughter that came through the communications was like breaking glass mixed with screaming. You cannot destroy us. We are eternal. Maybe, but we can try really hard. Dr. Nari detected something important. Captain, the original Devourer's emotional projection just changed. It's not just angry anymore. It's concerned. Concerned about what? About the fact that you're not afraid of it. Taejin finished his latest modification. Captain, I've rigged our communications array. We can now broadcast to every inhabited system in the galaxy simultaneously. Do it. What should I say? Hyun-woo thought about it while dodging another volley from the Devourer fleet. Around them, the battle continued. His crew was fighting alongside alien survivors who had never imagined they could resist the Devourers. Together, they were proving that the galaxy's greatest fear could be faced and fought. Tell them, he said finally, that the Devourers can be beaten. Tell them that help is coming. Tell them that humans are on the way. The message went out across the galaxy, carried on every frequency to every world. For the first time in 2 million years, someone was broadcasting defiance instead of surrender. On 1,000 worlds, in 100 different species, beings looked up at the stars and wondered if maybe, just maybe, they didn't have to be afraid anymore. The original Devourer detected the broadcast and realized what the humans had done. You have called for galactic resistance. This will only delay the inevitable. Maybe, Dong-hyun replied, destroying another Devourer ship. But delay is better than surrender. As the battle raged on, the galaxy began to change. The age of Devourer. Supremacy was ending, not because someone had found a perfect weapon or a brilliant strategy, but because someone had finally refused to give up. The Deathworlders had arrived, and they were exactly what the galaxy needed. Beings who had learned to fight impossible odds by surviving on a world that never stopped trying to kill them. 6 months after the battle at the hidden station, the galaxy was unrecognizable. The message broadcast by the Resilience had reached every inhabited world, and the response was beyond anything the humans had imagined. Captain Hyun-woo Kim stood on the bridge of the new vessel Defiance, watching a fleet of ships that would have been impossible just months ago. Hundreds of vessels from dozens of species all flying together under human tactical coordination. "Status report," he called to his mixed crew. Lieutenant So-Young Park, now promoted to commander, checked her sensors. "Captain, the Viridian fleet. Reports ready. The crystalline ships are charged and prepared. Even the Morkek amphibians have weapons online." Engineer Tae-Jin Lee looked up from a console where he was working alongside an insectoid technician. "Captain, the combined technologies are working better than expected. Galactic precision engineering combined with human redundancy principles is creating weapons the Devourers have never seen before." Dr. Na-Ri Choi monitored the psychological states of their diverse crew. "Captain, morale across all species is high. For the first time in their evolutionary history, these beings are choosing to fight instead of flee. The transformation had not been easy. Most galactic species had no framework for understanding violence or warfare. They had to learn everything from basic tactics to simple aggression. But they learned quickly, driven by something they had never experienced before. Hope. "Incoming transmission from Earth," So-Young announced. The face of Admiral Kim appeared on the main screen. She was Hyun-woo's sister, and she had been placed in charge of Earth's response to the Devourer threat. "Status of the Liberation Fleet?" she asked. "Ready for operation, Admiral. 47 systems are standing by to reclaim their worlds." "And the Devourers?" "Retreating to their core territory. They've lost almost 60% of their fleet to the Resistance." Velthara, now serving as the crystal species representative, joined the conversation. "Admiral Kim, my people have analyzed the pattern of Devourer retreats. They are falling back to defend their central construction facility." "Construction facility?" Quill Nara, her memory now enhanced with fragments from dozens of absorbed species, provided details. "The Builder's original manufacturing center, where the first Devourers were created 2 million years ago. It's heavily defended and contains the master control systems for their entire collective." Morkek, who had become surprisingly good at human-style tactical thinking, studied the strategic display. "If we could capture that facility, we could shut down every Devourer in the galaxy," Tae-Jin finished. "But it's protected by over 1,000 ships and automated defense systems designed by the most advanced species in galactic history." Sergeant Dong-Hyun Yu, now leading a mixed unit of human Marines and alien volunteers, grinned. "So it's Tuesday, then?" The aliens still didn't understand human humor, but they had learned to recognize the expression that meant humans were about to do something impossible. Admiral Kim continued the briefing. "Earth Command has approved the assault plan. But, Captain, this is voluntary. The odds against success are terrible," Hyun-woo agreed. "That's why we're perfect for the job." Dr. Nari had been analyzing psychological profiles from across the Resistance fleet. "Captain, something interesting is happening to the alien species. Exposure to human tactical thinking is changing their brain chemistry." "How?" "They're developing new neural pathways associated with aggression and risk-taking. Evolution in real time." Velthara's light flickered with what she had learned was amusement. "Dr. Nari, we prefer to think of it as finally understanding what we were meant to be." The fleet began its approach to the Builder's facility. As they traveled, reports came in from across the galaxy. Worlds that had been consumed years ago were being liberated. Species that had been absorbed were being freed from Devourer collectives. The original Devourer that had started this conflict sent a final transmission. "Deathworlders, you have disrupted 2 million years of peaceful unity. The galaxy will return to chaos and conflict." "Maybe," Hyunwoo replied. But it will be our chaos, our conflict, our choice. You cannot destroy the builder's facility. It was designed to be eternal. Everything can be destroyed, Tae-jin said confidently. You just need the right tools and enough determination. And humans have both, So-young added. As they approached the facility, they could see why it seemed impregnable. It was larger than most moons, covered in weapons that could destroy fleets and surrounded by devourer ships that had been waiting for 2 million years to defend it. Final weapons check, Dong-hyun ordered. Across the fleet, beings who had never imagined they could fight were preparing for the greatest battle in galactic history. Crystal beings charged their light weapons. Amphibians prepared their bioelectric attacks. Insectoids coordinated swarm tactics they had learned from watching human marines. Dr. Nari, Hyunwoo asked, any last observations about our mixed crew? Yes, Captain. They're not afraid anymore. Not of the devourers, not of death, not of failure. They've learned something from humans that their species never had before. What's that? The understanding that some things are worth dying for. The battle began as the combined fleet engaged the devourer defenses. The facility's weapons were devastating, but they had been designed to fight against species that followed galactic norms of warfare. The mixed fleet fought like humans, unpredictably, aggressively, and with complete disregard for their own safety. Tae-jin coordinated the technical assault. Captain, I'm reading the facility's control systems. The builders designed redundant safeguards, but they're all based on logical decision trees. And humans don't make logical decisions when people we care about are in danger. The facility's central core was protected by layers of energy shields and automated weapons. Getting through them required a sacrifice play that no galactic species would ever consider. I'll take a team into the core, Dong-hyun volunteered. The radiation will kill you in minutes, Velthera warned. Minutes is enough time to plant charges. Morkek stepped forward. I will go with you. My people were among the first absorbed. I want to be there when they are freed. And I, Quilnara added. My memory contains the facility's original blueprints from the absorbed builders. One by one, volunteers from every species stepped forward. Beings who had never imagined sacrificing themselves for others now competed for the chance to ensure their mission succeeded. This is what you taught us, Velthera said to Hyunwoo. That individual survival matters less than the survival of the group. The assault team made it into the facility's core, fighting through automated defenses and devourer entities. When they reached the central control chamber, they found something unexpected. Captain, Tae-jin reported over the communication link. The builders are still here. Still here? Not physically. But their consciousness is stored in the facilities. Computers. They've been aware this whole time, watching their creations consume the galaxy. The voice that spoke to them was ancient beyond measure. We did not intend for this to happen. The devourers were meant to preserve consciousness, not imprison it. Quilnara accessed her enhanced memory. The builders realized their mistake, but they had already transcended physical form. They could not stop what they had created. Can you help us shut it down? Dong-hyun asked. Yes, but the shutdown will destroy us as well. We will finally be able to rest. The builders' consciousness guided them through the shutdown procedure. As the facility's power began to fail, devourer ships throughout the galaxy stopped functioning. The absorbed consciousness of thousands of species was finally freed. The team barely made it out of the facility before it collapsed into itself, taking 2 million years of artificial evolution with it. In the aftermath, the galaxy faced a new reality. Hundreds of species that had been absorbed were free but displaced. Their worlds had been consumed, their civilizations destroyed. What happens now? Velthera asked as they watched rescue ships collecting freed beings from across the galaxy. Now, we rebuild, Hyunwoo replied. Together, Earth became the center of a new kind of galactic civilization, not one based on careful isolation and fear of danger, but one based on cooperation in the face of adversity. Human settlements were established throughout the galaxy, but they were always mixed communities. Humans sharing their Deathworld survival, skills with species that brought their own knowledge and perspectives. Dr. Nari established the first Galactic Psychology Institute, studying how different species could adapt to human-style thinking without losing their essential nature. Tai Jin became the head of Combined Engineering, developing new technologies that merged human durability with galactic precision. So Young founded the Galactic Defense Academy, teaching mixed-species crews how to fight together using tactics that no single species could have developed alone. Dong Hyun led the Peacekeeping Force, a volunteer organization that responded to threats across the galaxy with the same determination humans had shown against the Devourers. Years later, when new threats emerged from the dark spaces between galaxies, they were met not by isolated species fleeing in terror, but by united fleets of beings who had learned to fight impossible odds.